A US judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean "Diddy" Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
Sean "Diddy" Combs, the once untouchable mogul of music and luxury, is now a ghost in his own.
Now surviving on tightly wrapped snacks and shelf-stable food from commissary. Diddy reportedly treats processed ramen and vending machine jerky like treasures, not out of preference, but out of fear. For a man once at the helm of luxury liquor, deals, and private jets. The irony is grim. A snack-sized bag of peanuts now feels safer than a catered meal ever could. Some claim this is just the toll.
What his team is trying to do is get the public to assume that the government is leaking some of this negative information about him, like that Cassie video. But the reality is he's got a lot of enemies.
Others believe it's more deliberate. Quiet punishment, slowly unfolding, administered not by the justice system, but by people with old vendettas and long memories. Those who know the undercurrents swirling around Combs' past are beginning to utter phrases like internal setup and revenge in slow motion. One former tour manager, speaking under condition of anonymity, suggested Combs made powerful enemies during the bad boy era. And when the court recently denied him bail, citing fears he'd tamper with witnesses or flee, the narrative took an even darker turn. Pressure, it seems, is being applied from every direction, and someone's making sure it doesn't let up. While Diddy was acquitted of the more sweeping racketeering and trafficking charges, the jury did convict him on 2 serious counts involving illicit transport. The courtroom might have spared him from the full RICO hammer, but the stain of those testimonies lingers. 34 witnesses painted a picture of manipulation, coercion, chemically fueled escapades, and psychological damage so stark, one lawyer likened it to a modern freak show. The image stuck, and it's that image more than the verdict that seems to haunt his every step in custody. Guards and inmates alike reportedly watch him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, whispers are growing louder that some of his former inner circle may be cooperating with authorities. People who once benefited from his reach are now allegedly flipping, potentially out of fear that if pushed too far, Combs might turn informant in a desperate play to reduce his sentence. There's more. According to multiple off-record sources,
hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there.
And let's not forget, Diddy has not just been accused of wrongdoing, he's been convicted.
Some of the individuals who once handled the private side of Diddy's affairs, assistants, logistics coordinators, former confidants, have vanished from public view under mysterious circumstances. No statements, no media appearances, no social posts. One former aide was overheard telling a friend, "You talk, you might not walk out the same." The implication, the fear runs both ways. It's telling that Diddy's greatest anxiety doesn't seem to be prison itself, it's betrayal. Right? And in that context, every meal he refuses becomes more than a dietary choice. It's a quiet act.
Is from guards and inmates alike.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
It's not just
defiance. A refusal to let fear be swallowed. MDC insiders report that he rarely participates in any programming except those strategically chosen by his legal team, like the Stop Initiative for Domestic Violence. On the surface, it's a smart play, showing the court he's making amends, gathering checkboxes before sentencing. But others say the look in his eye during group therapy and intake sessions tells another story, not strategy, but raw fear. He reportedly asked more questions about food sourcing, staff loyalty, which inmates had access, than about sentencing guidelines or plea bargains. He paces his unit like someone waiting for anything to explode beneath him. Official reps claim he's in good spirits, a phrase that rings suspiciously hollow. Sounds less like truth, and more like damage control. Those who've seen him in court describe a man diminished, grayer, thinner, absent behind his eyes. Behind the steel doors, it's clear Combs isn't orchestrating anything anymore. He's surviving, but just barely. At his most recent court appearance, Diddy appeared disconnected, sluggish in his replies, and visibly unsettled even under the gentlest line of questioning. A man once flanked by entourages and commanding entire teams of stylists and handlers now seemed diminished, gripping the sides of a flimsy
Take interviews, asking more about meal sourcing and staff loyalty than about sentencing expectations.
Yeah, but so there's still, I mean, it's crazy too because there's still more happening in court. Like, I mean, everything is still active even though we're not hearing about it as much anymore. And the people may be fatigued like we talked about prior to.
So what exactly?
Plastic chair like it was the last piece of structure in a world collapsing around him. His gaze rarely met the judges. The spectacle wasn't just his downfall, it was the velocity of it all. And while the legal clock ticks toward his October 3rd sentencing, another, far more ominous timer is said to be running in parallel. One that many close to the case fear he won't survive. Not due to age, not from any diagnosed disease, because there are those both within and outside the detention center who allegedly want to ensure that Diddy never speaks another word to federal authorities. The suspicion that's gaining momentum is chilling.
Crumble.
Still pretty early in the proceedings. I think it's only been about a month or a month and a half since he's been arraigned and held in detention. And so the investigations are always going to be a continuous and ongoing process. I'm sure at this point there's been an exchange of discovery. And not only that, but I think there's been a gag order placed on the attorneys with information that they can and cannot share. But more importantly...
And while he awaits Judgment Day on October 3rd, another clock is ticking, one far less predictable.
Someone, somewhere, is determined to keep the deeper truths buried with him if it comes to that. If that means eroding his health slowly, discreetly via tainted snacks, or a subtle contamination in commissary items, then so be it. These aren't actors who play by courtroom rules. They don't issue subpoenas. They erase loose ends. That's why this story is no longer just about guilt or innocence. It's become about survival. And at the center of it is a man unraveling. His legacy lies in ruins. The once invincible brand has turned toxic.
They do silence.
We're monitoring another push to free Sean Diddy Combs tonight, with his legal team citing new evidence in an updated bail proposal. The music mogul agreeing to around-the-clock security and cutting out contact with basically anyone but his legal team to get out of jail ahead of his trial scheduled for May of next year for charges he allegedly coerced and abused women for years.
That's why some are calling this not.
His most high-profile connections have vanished into silence. Celebrities once eager to share stages with him, Cassie, the even Usher now, avoid the topic altogether. Their publicists on red alert. Even casual photos and mentions are being scrubbed from online timelines, as though association itself is radioactive, while the sentencing range stands between 15 months and 5 years. The question remains whether Diddy will physically endure long enough to see either end of that window. Federal facilities aren't known for their compassion. Certainly not for shielding inmates with a list of enemies that runs deep into the entertainment industry. And allegedly, the criminal underworld. When your name is dragged through, accusations of extortion, secret recordings, and stories of long-silenced victims, protection isn't guaranteed. It's a gamble. The empire that once seemed immovable has clearly cracked beyond repair. Underneath the platinum albums, the opulent yacht parties, and the pristine public image, a different kind of narrative is emerging.
One filled with former
allies and ex-staffers who are no longer loyal or silent. These are the same individuals who helped create.
Receipts. And those receipts don't just end with him.
Welcome to Popcorn Planet's The Interview, the series where we get in depth with amazing people, and I'm so honored to have this special guest with us here. Precious Muir, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, my love?
I'm great. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm making sure I center you a little bit more. There we go. So honored to have you here. You have some stories to tell. You've survived the white parties.